And welcome everybody to New Surge Live this week. We have a packed show. That's why there's no music, nothing like that. Want to get into it right here. We have in our next segment, we're going to have Pretty Jimmy Dream, aka James Ellsworth. Now, if that sounds familiar to you, James is the guy who got to face Braun Stroman on Raw last week in the proverbial quote unquote squash match. I hate saying that to guys who participate in that kind of a match, man. I really did. And you'll hear that in our interview, but that's what they're called, I guess. So and we're going to talk a little bit about his life outside of that James Ellsworth character too. You'll get to hear a little bit about him being Pretty Jimmy Dream and about his work promoting Adrenaline Championship Wrestling out of Maryland. A lot of interesting stories. I will admit, it's probably one of the best interviews I've ever done. And he's one of the coolest guys I've ever had the pleasure of talking to. So you're going to hear that in our next segment. But first off, I want to talk about the Monday, Tuesday night WWE Wars, so to speak. We're going to talk about that here. And also, you see that Sega versus Nintendo logo. We're going to talk a little bit about the console wars, so to speak. They are a brewing. Kind of. It's a very lousy thing to talk about. Not a very good topic at all, but it is a story. So I'm going to take it and run with it. Raw this past week, pretty good. I have to say it did better than SmackDown as far as the entertaining show. Part of it, of course, thanks to James Ellsworth, because I'm sorry, Ami, if you take that match, let's start with that match, in my opinion, of that match. That right there, man, that right there is the art of the squash. That's exactly the way it should be done. And I have, a lot of people knock Braun Strowman in his work, and I have too in the past, but James Ellsworth made Strowman look good. Stroman made James Ellsworth look good, and that's kind of hard to do in a squash match nowadays, man, as far as getting both guys over. And I believe that the match did that. Other things on Raw, James got to cut a promo. That was pretty cool. You had another squash on Raw with Nia Jax pretty much dominating. I did not enjoy that squash match as much, I'll be honest with you. You had two sets of Fatal 4-Ways of Finn Balor making his big debut. Two sets of Fatal 4-Way matches. Balor wins his. Roman wins his. The winner of those two go on to face, or the winner of those two face each other at the end of the night, and the winner of that match gets to fight Seth Rollins at SummerSlam for the WWE Universal Championship. Yes, my eyes roll every time I hear it or say it. Why can't they bring back the big gold belt? I mean, I kind of understand why they can't. And the reason why they can't is because about 2 years ago when The Rock retired that belt, that was it. It was done. But it doesn't mean that you can't bring back the old belt from 2002 that has a picture of a globe on it. Maybe call that the Universal title? I don't know. I mean, I get why they did it. I personally just don't like the name. So Finn Balor was the star of Raw this week. And he took that crowd and just held them in the palm of his hand and took them for a ride, man. It was so awesome. That show, I can't say, I've watched it twice, and I don't go back and watch stuff again. It was the perfect way to introduce Monday Night Raw, a new era. I don't like the set, that little archway that they have over top of it. One, it's ugly as sin. Two, the rest of the stage did not change much. You still got the WWE symbol that looks like it's sitting on a rooftop, and then you got that ribbon-style Titantron that they walk out from behind. I hate it. I was expecting something entirely new and entirely fresh. Polish a turd, WWE, and it's still a turd. And that stage is a turd. I've hated it from the moment they introduced it. I, in fact, was there at SmackDown in 2008 or 9, I believe, when they first introduced that set. And I want to say it was in Hampton, Virginia, at the Hampton Coliseum. Speaking of which, I'm going to Backlash. That's another thing that I need to talk about here tonight. So Raw, wrapping up Raw, Finn Balor wins the whole enchilada. He beats Roman Reigns clean. Roman Reigns obviously in the doghouse, as well he should be, coming back from his wellness policy suspension. And so Raw was, I'm not saying Raw was a perfect show, but as far as saying, hey, we're wiping the slate clean, we're kind of hitting the reset button, we did the brand split again, here we go, and it was good. Very good. There was very few bad things on this show. I'm not even going to bother pointing them out because it was just, it's so awesome. SmackDown, however, you know, a lot of people want to rate, you want to sit there and berate Raw for being a 3-hour boring show. SmackDown was only 2 hours this week, and I felt like they probably could have used another half an hour to another hour. It opened up with everybody around the ring, and Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon coming down. You got American Alpha standing out there on the ring apron, and they're not in the Battle Royal. You got all these women out there, they're not in the Battle Royal. You got Kane standing right next, you got Heel sitting right next to baby faces, and American Alpha isn't even debuting until next week, yet they're there on the apron. It just made no sense, man. I hate when they do that. It's a lot better when you have them up on the stage or sitting in a back room somewhere. But to have heels and baby faces sitting like that out there in front of the live crowd, it befuddles me to no end. Why they did not have American Alpha on this show? Oh my God. When they popped up and said that they were coming out when they were debuting next week, I felt like turning the TV off then because they are one of the guys that I tuned in to see. I feel like, you know, they just did not. It felt like a typical WWE throwaway SmackDown. Granted, Dolph Ziggler is getting to face Dean Ambrose at SummerSlam for the WWE title. But here's the point. Dolph Ziggler can't really be rebuilt. 3 years ago, they were begging for this guy to win the title, or begging for them to push this guy. And the moment Vince McMahon pretty much spat in the face of the crowd and said, nope, it's not going to happen. He's always going to be mid-card to lower-card jobber. The ship sailed, and the crowd just is not getting behind him anymore. And that's not Ziggler's fault. By any means, that's not Ziggler's fault. But it's McMahon's fault. Everybody say, oh, it's the writers, it's the writers. Well, yes, the writing power was just not there on SmackDown. It's been rumored that they're going to have 2 separate writing crews. I hope so. But it just, man, do they got a long way to go with that show. And then, you know, they got a good chance. They got a better chance than Raw does because, yeah, the Olympics are coming up. That's going to take away viewers from both Raw and SmackDown. But then you got football season right around the corner. And there's no football on Tuesdays. So SmackDown has a prime opportunity to make a name for itself. And last night was just not a... Or Tuesday night, I should say, because I'm recording this on Thursday. Tuesday was just not a... You only get one chance to make a first impression, and that was not a good first impression. I expect the ratings to drop significantly because of the fact that they chose Ziggler. Sorry, the ship has sailed on that guy for me. I like Dolph Ziggler, man. I like old Ziggy. I want to see him get the belt, but how do you expect us to believe in a guy that has been browbeaten so many times? And basically, we've been programmed to believe, the common fan has been programmed to think now that this guy just does not matter. And then you got the women coming out, and there's no title for them to fight for. Why are you all coming out and doing this? I will say, Eva Marie, probably the best entrance for any well, diva's a bad word. We're not allowed to say that. Probably the best entrance for any woman's wrestler I've ever seen with you know, the announcer and the Academy Award style announcer and all that. It was beautiful with the red lights and everything. I hope I get to see it live when I go to Backlash. That's another thing. They did announce a SmackDown only pay-per-view called Backlash. It is coming to the Richmond Coliseum on September 11th. I don't know how I feel about them booking a wrestling show, a pay-per-view, on the 15th anniversary of 9/11. And I just don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if that was, but tickets went on sale today. I got mine. I kind of got duped into pre-sale, but I got mine. I'm sitting up in the nosebleeds, but hey, at least I'm there. It's my first WWE live event in about 4 years. My first pay-per-view in about 10 years. The last pay-per-view I went to, guys, was Armageddon 2006. So it'll be right around almost 10 years. So yeah, there you go. That's my thoughts on the whole brand extension thing. American Alpha should have came out there and killed it, man. They should have came out there and done something, even if it's a little quick, match again, even if it's a squash match, Ellsworth said he was. You're going to hear in our interview. Ellsworth said he was there for SmackDown. You could have had James Ellsworth coming out there on Raw and then done Pretty Jimmy Dream and hey, even call up, he mentions his tag partner in the interview. Have American Alpha versus Pretty Ugly, and I would have, even if it was another squash, I would have gotten to see more James Ellsworth. I would have gotten to see his tag partner, and we would have gotten to see a strong debut out of American Alpha because you know that they're going to make them look good, and vice versa. They needed that squash. They absolutely needed that squash. Hell, Neville, the returning Neville, came out there and faced Axel, for crying out loud, in a squash. You're telling me that you couldn't sit there and cut down a little bit on the fatal or the six-pack challenge and, done it that way? People ask me, Joe, what are your favorite parts of SmackDown Live from this past week? I'm going to tell you, Mauro Ranallo's commentary and the fact that daggone, we got to see Ziggy finally get the #1 contendership. And the Diva segment, that was it. That's all that I could think of right now off the top of my head was Ranallo's commentary was awesome. I saw somebody on Facebook today say they need to get rid of him. He sounds too much cartoony, like a cartoon commentator, like you would see on a Saturday morning anime. And I'm just like, dude, do you want Cole calling everything that same robotic voice? That's the problem I have with UFC. I'll take you back to UFC 200. UFC 200 had Mike Goldberg, Joe Rogan. And Goldberg introduces a match like, right now we're going to see these heavyweights. And then he goes into this video package. Brock Lesnar, coming off of blah, 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 blah. And then I watched this the Thursday before that on Fight Pass. And the commentator this little guy that they have commentating, it wasn't Joe Rogan, he talks the same way. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, blah, 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 it's the same exact commentary, that same exact flow, no matter who does that commentary on UFC. Every single match when somebody gets knocked out in UFC, it's all over. Are you saying you want that every week on Raw and SmackDown? Ugh. I don't think I could take it. And to think they almost signed Mike Goldberg to WWE at one point. They were heavily looking at Mike Goldberg at one point. I like Ranallo much better. Anyway, when we come back, we're going to go right into our interview with Pretty Jimmy Dream, a.k.a. James Ellsworth. And that's coming up next. You're listening to New Surge Live right here on youtube.com/tonsoffunWWE. Follow me on Twitter at Wrestling Truck and on Facebook, facebook.com/NewSurgeLive. We'll be right back. And welcome everybody back to New Surge Live this week. A lot of stuff going on in the world of professional wrestling and the world of gaming we talk about too. But right now we're going to turn back to wrestling. On the phone with us, he is currently grocery shopping. And we have, if you watched Raw this past Monday, you saw his debut, as it were. We have James Ellsworth on the line with us. How are you doing, James?
I'm a little sore, but other than that, I'm good. How are you?
A little? I was going to ask. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking, man. How are you? I should be asking, how are you? that looks stiff as hell, man.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, he's a big guy with big hands and big arms and big legs and everything else that I saw was big. So
I don't wanna talk just about the WWE thing because I read on your Facebook page you're actually a owner slash promoter of Adrenaline Championship Wrestling up in Maryland. Is that correct?
yes, sir. Yeah, I run shows in Maryland and Pennsylvania. I'm a licensed promoter in both states, and yeah, I promote the shows all over the place in Maryland and Pennsylvania.
I go to a lot of indie shows in Carolina, and it's weird hearing the word license because in Carolina you don't need one. Um, how is it dealing with these athletic commissions around Maryland and Pennsylvania? Because I'm from Virginia, and we have a commission here, and they are tough as hell
Yeah.
to deal with here. What is your experience like as a promoter dealing with athletic commissions?
In Pennsylvania, they're okay. I mean, they don't generally mess with you too much. In Maryland, it's a pain in the ass. Like I can't say it any other way. It's a pain in the butt. Guys that work for the commission are real nice and everything. It's a pain in the butt. You got to go through a lot of loops and all, but it's okay. I deal with it, and I don't try to complain about it too much.
I must admit I did go on YouTube and watch a match when you're wrestling as Pretty Jimmy Dream against a guy named Skull. It's the first match. I just typed in Pretty Jimmy Dream, and that was the first match that came up. It was an older match, but I gotta say, man, people didn't get to see it Monday night, but you're a damn good worker.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I was caught well, and I always keep my ears open and listen to advice on how to get better and how to improve my craft, and that's always the mindset I take into the wrestling business. So you gotta to be good at something, you gotta learn from the people who did it before you and did it well, and that's what I always done.
If I may ask, who trained you?
Axel Rotten.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that had to be interesting to say the least. So you're probably used to taking stuff like what you got dished out on Monday night.
Well, I mean, believe it or not, I trained somewhere before him, but I can't give those guys any credit that trained before. I went to wrestling school for a year back in 2002 to 2003, and that school shut down. And the guys there, not all of them were bad guys, but they really weren't trying to teach us. It was kind of like they were just trying to bully us around, and always felt shafted, by that place. And they shut down in 2003. They're back in business now. I'm not going to say who they are or nothing. I don't want to plug them. But I mean, 2003, I was on my own. Like, okay, I got a year of training. I know how to bump. I know how to hit the ropes. I didn't know how to work. I was never taught. I knew just the basic, I learned my ABCs as they say, like hitting the ropes and bumping and selling and all that, but I didn't know how to work. So I was on my own in 2003, 18 years old, and I met Axel in 2006, and he just completely turned it around for me as far as mindset about how to do a match and how to carry yourself in a locker room and all that stuff. He pretty much saved me, taking me under his wing.
That happens a lot, I hear. A lot of wrestlers go through training somewhere, and it's one of these schools where give me $3,000 and we'll show you a little something while you go on. I think you hear many stories where give me $3,000 and you're going to do beer runs for me for a year and not even touch a ring. So I guess in a way, it's nice that we had people like Axel and that we have decent schools out there. Does Adrenaline Championship Wrestling, do they have a school at all, or are you just a basic promotion that just does shows?
We've been doing shows for a while now. We actually are in the process of opening up a school. We're hoping to open up in October, and we've been working on that pretty much through the whole summer. So we're very busy running shows. We run a lot of shows now, and but yeah, we're looking more into picking up a school and training people here in the Baltimore area.
Nice. I want to take it back to Monday night. Actually, I'll take it back to before Monday night. How did you get the call from WWE? Who called you, if you don't mind saying that? And how does this get proposed to you?
Well, I've been sending them stuff for years because they use there's extra talent at the TVs every week.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they get used or not, they're there every week. And I've been sending stuff forever, forever. 2014, I was the first time I actually got used. I was a Rosebud for Adam Rose a couple of times,
Mm-hmm.
and, and that was my first TV experience with WWE. Was doing those, and I thought that was as far as it was going to go for me. Oh, okay, I got to be on TV and dancing with this guy in the ring. This is cool. And I mean, I still sent stuff since then, and finally, like last December, they had me up there. I didn't do anything, which you never get mad you do anything. Just the experience of being there is good enough, and
Mm-hmm.
and this time, this weekend, it just worked out for me. They have certain different people that email you every time, and from their talent relations office. Not anybody would know. It's just one of the people that work in the office will email you and say, "Hey, are you available for these dates?" And you just email them back and you go from there.
Nice. So did they tell you when they proposed this to you, when they said, "Hey, come on up to Pittsburgh"? Did they tell you that you were going to be going against Stroman?
No, I didn't know I was going to be going against Stroman until 5 o'clock that evening.
And at 5 o'clock that evening, you look at you. They tell you, "Hey, man, you're going to go out there, and he's basically gonna. I hate using this term with the person that was in the match, but he's pretty much going to squash you." Do you pretty much know that you're in for a rough night?
Well, I mean, it doesn't so much go down like that. We get there around ringside, all the extras, and they asked us all to throw a punch, and I threw a punch, and Arn Anderson liked it, said not bad, and so he got me in the ring with Strowman. Like I didn't know what was going on at all. He just got me in the ring with Strowman, and he's like, "Now throw a punch on him," and I threw a punch on him, and he's like, "Not bad." He said, "Comfortable working him in a match tonight?" I said, "Yeah, I'll do whatever you need me to do." So we go over the match, and we went over everything that we did and all, and it went well in practice. And Strowman couldn't have been a nicer guy. He's a great guy. I have nothing but good things to say about him. And yeah, it just kind of went from there. The next thing I know, they're like, "Hey, let's hear you cut a promo real quick." And so I was like, "Okay." And they're like, "Just cut one on Strowman." And I just sat there and talked about Stroman for a minute in the promo, and I'm like, all right, well, we're going to give you 30 seconds on TV.
Wow.
And I was like, well, yeah, I didn't expect that. That part I did not expect at all. It was crazy. So very, very nerve-wracking at first.
The promo wasn't even against Strowman. It was pretty much the. A lot of people have messaged me and been like, that promo reminds me of the Mikey Whipwreck promo that he cut back in ECW, where he's just like, I have a fighting chance, but ultimately I'm going to die out here,
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean,
That was just the promo on Strowman before the show was just practice. Like, just they wanted to see it, like, if I could talk, I guess.
hmm
And yeah, like the promo they gave me for the match, the one you saw on TV, they gave me that, and then they asked me if I had any ideas, like any to put in there, and I had one idea, and that happened to work out great for me because everything he said was in the script. I said on there was in the script, other than the line where I said any man with two hands has a fighting chance. That was something I came up with, and I pitched to them, and they liked it and let me do it. So that was very cool of them to let me do that.
I was going to say this, and this is taking off for you. So the match happens. The commentators are pretty much like obviously not giving you a chance at all, and afterwards, I gotta say that you're the star of the match. Braun Strowman is pretty much an afterthought at this point. Here we are, 3 days removed from it, and you are everywhere. In fact, I saw a meme today that quote unquote Sunny Boy posted. Um, I think it's the WrestleMania 29 poster with The Rock and Cena
Yeah.
charging at each other, and his head is on Rock's head, and your head's on Cena. It's like the most craziest thing I've ever seen. One,
Yeah, I did not expect any of that. Yeah.
So it's like you're Braun. I mean, they did the match to get Braun Strowman over, and you're the one that got over. How is any? I have to ask this. Obviously, I don't know if you probably have heard anything, but any other word from them after the match about you coming back in for anything else?
Well, yeah, there's some possibilities lined up. Nothing like edged in stone yet. But after the match, I expected literally after it was over with, I expected to roll, go to the back and get my dress clothes back on, get something to eat, and thank Braun Strowman for the match and leave. And I did expect like friends and family on Facebook and social media to write me and say, hey man, I saw you, cool. I did not expect all the memes and all the say, man, that speech was inspirational. I did not expect any of that at all. But yeah, going back to if WWE's asked me back, they have emailed me and asked me if I would be interested in coming back. They didn't say when or whatever, and I wrote back, absolutely, of course, whenever you need me, just write me and I'll be there. So we'll see what happens. Right now, nothing etched in stone at all.
It's like
But we'll
it's
see what
like
happens.
what did they expect you to say? No, not if you're going to put me in the ring with him again. Come on, of course you're interested.
Right.
um,
It's my dream. Yeah. So.
I'm not. When you see this interview, I'm going to link it on my Facebook page, and you're friends with me on Facebook, so you'll probably see it too. Um, I got a picture of you as Jimmy Dream, pretty Jimmy Dream, on the corner with a hairspray. I'm assuming it's hairspray in his hand, and above that, it's you as James Ellsworth. And you had this meme on your Facebook page, so I went ahead and snagged it. It's you next to this turtle, and it's the funniest one out of the bunch. What has been
I
your
love I love them all, even the ones that are trying to I mean they're all making fun of me, I guess, but I mean I love it. Like I doesn't bother me a bit. I smile every time I see it. I'm just glad it's happening. I'm a pretty laid back, humble guy, and like for me to have any kind of popularity, just really just it's humbling, and I just smile at it, even if even if it's bad humor, people are trying to make fun of me. I just smile and shake my head, and I share everything. The one with the turtles, probably that's one of my favorites too. I can't say which one's my favorite because I'm happy that they're all happening. But there's one of the turtle that's cute. I did like that one.
So are you gonna still perform as Pretty Jimmy Dream, or are you strictly James Ellsworth? Are you gonna go out there on the indie scene and do both?
Um, right now I'm gonna see what happens with the. I don't have like a 100% answer right now. I'll see what's gonna happen with the James Ellsworth thing. I mean, I don't know. Like, I've never been put in this position before where there's some kind of buzz. Like, it's real new to me. I don't really know it. Like,
Right.
so I mean, I'm just gonna ride it for now and see where it takes me. And if not, I've always liked doing a pretty Jimmy Dream character. My tag partners Adam Ugly, and together we're pretty ugly, which it's
Mm-hmm.
funny because we're both not like handsome looking men. So our tag name's Pretty Ugly, and I go out there and I act like I'm pretty, but the whole gimmick is I'm not. So it's funny when I come out there and I'm like, oh, I'm the prettiest thing, and you look at me and you're like, what are you talking about? And that's the heat. So
Um,
you know.
I did see a promo of you and your tag partner and in a bathroom, and s- I gotta ask about that promo. Did the person 5 minutes or 5 seconds into the promo, somebody walks into the bathroom and is like, "Hey, I gotta take a crap" or whatever? Was that planned, or did some just random fan walk in,
It
or?
was absolutely not planned. That was it. That was just a fan that was at the show. That was, and we just kept rolling. We had fun, man. Wrestling. Yeah, I think a lot of the guys on the indies, like I've been wrestling 14 years since 2002,
Mm-hmm.
since I was 17 years old, and on the indies, and like I think a lot of guys on the indies, they just forgot that when you sign up, it's like the first thing you want to do is have fun. I mean, we're not gonna. Nobody on this earth is going to be able to do this forever. Like you
Right.
don't know when your bum card's up and you can't wrestle anymore, so have fun with it. So like a lot of guys, they just take it all seriously, and not that it's bad to be serious. Like you want to take it seriously and be good at it, but to have fun at it, and that's what we try to do. Like that, is we just try to have a good time at it.
For those folks who are just receiving a link to this podcast or whatever, you are listening to New Search Live. We have Pretty Jimmy Dream, aka James Ellsworth, on the New Search Live line. You can follow him on Twitter at PJ Jimmy Dream. Um, I'm assuming we and you were already friends by happenstance on Facebook. I'm assuming your Facebook friends limit has already been reached.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the friends limit was like it's like at 4,900, but I mean nobody can send me a request right now. It's like unable to, which sucks. So I'm probably gonna make a like page, maybe possibly tonight. So everybody can go and like a fan page and everybody can go like that. So I'm gonna do that tonight
And
so I can get more people to like it.
for anybody who goes on Twitter and looks at PJ Jimmy Dream, the cover photo is Stroman with his hand around Jimmy's neck, and Jimmy just looks like almost like a ventriloquist dummy. It's just so awesome. I mean, who came up with the name James Ellsworth? Was that the writers? Did you come up with that? I mean, obviously you can't go into a squash match with Braun Strowman and use Pretty Jimmy Dream. It just wouldn't, it wouldn't look too
Right.
convincing to the character. But
Yeah, they came in. They said, "Hey, what do you want to be called?" And I was like, "Well, I know you're not going to use my wrestling name." They're like, "Well, it is." And I said, "Well, it's Jimmy Dream. I just know you're not going to use it." And they're like, "Yeah, we can't use that." They're like, "Do you have any ideas?" I said, "Well, my first real name is James, and my middle name is Ellsworth. I always thought that would be like a funny little name, James Ellsworth." And the writer just smiled at me. He's like, "Yeah, we'll go with that." I was like, "Cool." So it's really is my first real name and my
wow.
middle name.
No offense to
So
you, but it's like you played that part so well. It's just the I mean, when you compare yourself against Strowman, you're like this short, skinny, scrawny guy, and the name just fits that, man. I mean, it's so awesome. If it were me in your position, I'd be taking it and running with it. I see that you already had a design for a T-shirt made, and I read on Facebook there's 8x10s coming. Go ahead and plug your merch, man.
yeah, I like again, I literally like thought I was gonna just roll out of the ring and fade away, and I didn't plan on making merchandise and all that, but with the social media going crazy like it has, I was like, well, might as well give it a try, and so I just wrote a Facebook status about, hey, does anybody want a T-shirt? And if you're interested, I'll make them. And I got so many people, inboxing me and wanting them, so I was like, all right, and so I got a guy, he's making them right now as we speak. So that's happening. And then the 8x10s I just got. They're actually in my car right now. Like I told you, I'm at the grocery store grocery shopping for my family. But I do have the 8x10s already. And if you just go on Facebook, find me on Facebook, James Ellsworth. If you're not my friend, you can message me. Just message me on there, and I'll give you my PayPal account, and PayPal the money over, and send me where to send the picture, and I'm going to be sending them out as of tomorrow. So.
How about that? James Ellsworth comes on New Search Live and he's setting up his gimmick table for you folks. That's awesome. um,
Yeah.
did you get to meet Vince? And if so, what is he like?
Oh man, yeah. I've been there numerous times, and
Right, right.
Vince like never really get to talk to him or see him because like he'll walk by real quick. He's so busy, but like again, it goes back to I just thought I was gonna roll out the ring and that was gonna be it for me. Um, I go to the back after the match, and I'm waiting on Stroman, to thank him and everything. And Arn Anderson, who was the agent for our match, came up to me and he thanked me for doing a really good job. And he said, "Hey, Vince wants to see you at Gorilla." And I was like, "Really?" And so I went to Gorilla, and I was like, "Hey, they said Vince wanted to see me." He's like, "Yeah, he does. Go." So I went up, and Vince came right over to me and smiled, and he said, "Very good job, young man. You were very entertaining.
Wow.
Thank you very much." And I said, "That means the world. What am I trying to say? World. That's what I'm trying to say. What in the world am I trying to say? I'm trying to say world." I was like, "That means the world to me, sir. I appreciate that." And he said, and he said, "Thank you again." And that was the first time I've ever talked to him or shook his hand or anything. It was really, really cool. I mean, I never in a million years thought that would happen, and it was very, very humbling to say the least.
There are people. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up right here because I don't want to distract you too much from your shopping and your family and everything. I want to thank you for taking the time, man. I know you've been probably super busy since all this happened, and we're not the biggest podcast in the world, so I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us. There's a lot of people out there saying that they need to sign you to NXT or this cruiserweight division that they're having coming up, and I wholeheartedly agree with them. I enjoyed your work Monday night. I enjoyed the stuff that I found on YouTube. One more time, if you want to, plug anything you want to. The floor is yours for as long as you want it. If you want to plug Adrenaline Wrestling, your merchandise again, your Twitter, Facebook, please feel free. Go ahead.
Yeah, real quick, just visit my promotion at adrenalinewrestling.com. Once again, that's adrenalinewrestling.com. You can find me on Instagram at James Ellsworth. You can find me on Twitter, James Ellsworth at PJimmyDream. You can find me on Facebook under the name James Ellsworth. And hopefully I'll have a liked page tonight that you can find me on as well. Other than that, I just want to thank everybody that may be listening to this podcast for all the love and support. I truly appreciate it.
Well, you got my support, man. I hope they sign you. I really do. I enjoyed your work. Um, it's amazing how everything was pretty Jimmy Dream, and over the course of 3 days, all of his social media folks is James Ellsworth now. So
Yeah,
it's definitely taken off.
Wrestling is wrestling's different than any other entertainment.
Oh
It
man,
really, really is.
that's for sure. And I enjoy talking to wrestlers like you guys and workers like you guys. And I agree with Vince. I was entertained by you Monday night. I mean, as soon as Monday night happened, as soon as that match happened, I put on Facebook, sign James Ellsworth right now because the dude can work. He could sell. And are you doing? I have to ask this before we let you go. Are you doing Jericho's podcast? Has anything been concrete on that?
It looks like it. He sent out the tweet that he sent out, and then he actually I'll tell this story real quick before you let me know.
Sure, go ahead.
It's a good story. So when I was driving home from not home, we went to Buffalo the next day for SmackDown. I was there for SmackDown the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was driving, I get a call, and the referee from WWE that I know, just friends with. I was friends with him since the Indies. He said, "Hey, Jericho wants to talk to you." And I said, "He does?" He's like, "Yeah, hold on." So he put Jericho on the phone.
Wow.
And Jericho said, "Hey, man, I just wanted to tell you, good job. You did very good." I said, "Thanks, man. It means a lot coming from you." He said, "Yeah, you got more interview time than I did tonight, fucker." I started laughing. I said, "Hey, man, I'm sorry. I don't write the show." And he just laughed. He said, "Look, I'm going to tweet you tomorrow. I want to have you on my podcast." I said, "Anytime, of course." And so he, and then when we hung up, I was thinking, he's not going to tweet me tomorrow. And he did, he was a man of his word. And so, yeah, it appears that I will be on his podcast. I do not know when. I'm guessing probably next week. It's just a guess, but I do think I will be on it. And in closing, anybody out there that has a dream, I mean, I'm 31 years old, been wrestling since I was 17, been watching wrestling since I was 3-4 years old, since I can remember. So if you have a dream and you want to chase it, any man with two hands has a fighting chance.
And on that, we're going to head to a little bit of a break. When we come back, folks, we're going to talk a little bit about Sega and Nintendo. The console wars seem to be back. We're going to explain it all. Jimmy, thank you so much for joining us. Folks, you're listening to New Search Live. We'll be right back. And welcome back to New Search Live, ladies and gentlemen. I want to send a big thank you out again to James Ellsworth. Follow him on Twitter at PJJimmyDream. Facebook, James Ellsworth. Buy his merchandise, folks. And I'm telling you right now, man, the dude deserves to be signed after the performance he gave Monday night. Even though he was in there with Braun Stroman and he got totally squashed, the guy's facial expressions, the hiding in the corner, the promo he cut, everything about that guy is marketable. And they need to sign him quickly. And I really hope something happens. He mentioned to me off air, if I get signed, I'll come back on and I'll do another podcast. And I greatly appreciate the offer, but I was like, yeah, like they're really gonna let you do a pissant podcast like mine once you get signed. And we had a laugh about that. But I really want to thank James Ellsworth, Pretty Jimmy Dream, for coming on. It's probably one of the best interviews I've ever done here at New Search Live, and he's probably one of the nicest people I've ever gotten the privilege of talking to. Thank you so much for doing that for us. Now, Nintendo versus Sega. So Nintendo, last time I believe we were covering the Nintendo NES Classic that Nintendo's coming out with the big 30 games and all this mess. And well, Sega decides that they're going to fire back their own. And Sega introduces this bundle. I'm going to see if I can find it here. Let me see here. Let me see if I can find it. This is the Sega Classic Games console. Now, this one that I've seen. They've come out with these many times in the past. One of them is made by um, At Games. That's not the one that I'm looking for, though. The one that I'm looking for. Huh, they don't have it. Well, if you looked at your dollar store recently, it was there during Christmas time. This is from comicbook.com. This is posted on July 26th. This is it's a see. Okay, so they have it right. This is my point that I was getting into. Sega decides there's all this hoopla that Sega says that they're going to introduce their own Mega Drive Classic to combat Nintendo's deal. Everybody makes a hoopla over it. My point was to this whole thing is this thing has been out for about a year now. It was on Dollar General store shelves. If you went to a dollar store, you could find this thing for right around $30 last Christmas. Here are the games that this thing comes with. And I actually have an earlier handheld version of this thing. It does not have some of these games on it, but it's essentially the same thing. Alex Kidd in the Enchanted Castle, Alien Storm, Altered Beast, Arrow Flash, The Bonanza Brothers, Shotgun, The Forever Man, Columns 3, Comics Zone, which I hate that game. Everybody gives such good praise to that game. It looks good. I can't stand it. It's just way too... First thing is too hard. But anyway. Crackdown, which is awesome. Deep Attack, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Time Machine, E-SWAT City Under Siege, Eternal Champions, Fatal Labyrinth, Flicky, Game Ground, Golden Axe 1, 2, and 3, Jewel Master, Kid Chameleon, Phantasy Star 2 and 3, Rye Star, Shadow Dancer The Secret of Shinobi, Shinobi 3 Return of the Ninja Master, Sonic & Knuckles, Sonic Spinball, Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Sonic 3D Blast, Sword of Vermilion, The Ooze, Vector Man 1 and 2, and then the big thing that they added to this that was not in the previous release from about 3 or 4 years ago was Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3. For me, that's worth it right there to get Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3. That's worth getting this thing. Now again, this was made by At Games. It was made back in 2015 with Sega's permission. So this was a Sega endorsed product. So everybody's saying Sega's firing back at Nintendo. We got these console wars going on, man. Sega, Nintendo, it's just like it was back in like 91, 92. You got the Genesis and you got the damn NES thing. And well, back then it was a Super Nintendo, but the NES was still around. Rumors are still now that they're making a NES or a Super NES like this, kind of like an emulator type thing. Listen. This thing was put out. Sega beat Nintendo to the punch, and here's why. As comicbook.com points out here as an update, Kotaku actually came up with this, who's getting ready to go out of business. It's actually a rebranded release of the game emulator At Games has been releasing for years, not a response to the NES Classic. Sega is not directly involved in this emulator box. We are no longer excited in the original article files. The thing is, though, Sega wouldn't let them put their name on it if they didn't have it, if they weren't directly involved, in my opinion. The only difference between this emulator box and the one that Nintendo is putting out, the reason why I'm probably going to get both, but the reason that the Sega one most entices me and mostly excites me, one, you get Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3. There's no Sonic the Hedgehog 3 on this, which they've never put Sonic the Hedgehog 3 on any of these little cheap emulators that At Games has came out with. You could go on Steam and buy Sonic the Hedgehog 3 with Knuckles included, but you can't get it on any of these emulators. But the big thing is that with this Game Classic Mega Drive thing, you can play Mega Drive and Sega Genesis games on it. You can take your cartridges. It has a slot for them. You pop them in, flip the switch, and you're ready to go. It also has an SD card slot on this thing where you can take ROMs from an SD card, put them on there, and play them that way as well. The box that I'm looking at was released for the 25th anniversary of Sonic. It comes with two 6-button, it looks to be wireless controllers, which are probably shit. But I gotta tell you, man, this whole deal about a console war thing happening, I kind of like it. But I don't see it as a true console war. Don't nobody need to be, chomping at the bit to get this. They'll still be out there. Um, it would be nice if Sega came out with its own thing that looked like the classic Genesis, or even the Mega Drive with the headphones jack and the volume jack and all that good stuff. But right now, it looks like this At Games thing is the only thing you're going to get. As I said, it's been out for years now, at least since last Christmas. So, because like I said, I walked into Dollar General last Christmas. I had already spent all my Christmas money. I walked into Dollar General on Black Friday, and there it was sitting in their bin, like one of their middle bins inside the store for like $60. I think this thing, well, actually not even 60. I think it was $40 is what this thing was going at. So there it is. There's your little console war Sega versus Nintendo update. It's been brewing all week. I'm kind of excited to see it. Let me know what you think in the comments below about this. There's also a ton of games like Sega arcade / puzzle games that come with this thing. Wall breaking, curling 2010. You get chess, memory, snake, air hockey. There's one game called Mr. Balls. I will not be playing a game called Mr. Balls. Wacko Wolf. Black Sheep, Flash Memory, and there's also a handheld version of this that's out there. The console is priced at $65 American dollars. It says it's with a release date of October 16 through British retailer Smith Toys. Now this may be coming out in England this year, but as I noted, it has been out in the US here for about a year now, at least 6 months ago. It was around during Christmas. I want it just because Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3. That Mortal Kombat 2 was probably the best Mortal Kombat game on that Genesis era. 3 was good because they introduced like Striker and all that. And then on the PlayStation 1, you had Mortal Kombat Anthology, which was all the characters from 1, 2, and 3. And then you pressed L1, R1, L2, R2, start select, and you got the one-button fatality code. And then also had fatalities, babalities, friendships, and animalities on it. That was probably the most definitive Mortal Kombat game I've ever played, was that Mortal Kombat Anthology for PS1. But that's going to do it for us today. Man, what a show. What a show. Probably one of our best shows that we've done in a long time. Let me know what you think in the comments below on this pack's Raw SmackDown. Let me know what you think about the Nintendo versus Sega debacle. It's not even a debacle, really. Sega beat him to the punch. Well, At Games beat him to the punch. But to me, At Games could not put a Sega Mega Drive logo or Sonic or anything like that, any of Sega's IP, without going through Sega first. So to me, it's officially licensed. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. Check us out again on Twitter at Wrestling Truck, Facebook.com/NewSurgeLive, and we'll see you down the road, guys. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Like, comment, and subscribe.